Hello and welcome to our new show, Ask the Author. I am Rintu Nath. We are beginning this new series to showcase some of the finest authors who have been able to marry the art of storytelling with science and have written books. These books are able to generate curiosity among readers to know more about science and its importance in everyday life. Today, in the first episode, we have with us Dr. Govind Bhattacharjee, the author of recently released book, The Story of Consciousness. Dr. Govind Bhattacharjee is a prolific writer and columnist with versatile interest in diverse areas ranging from public finance to photography. But popular science has always been his first love. Story of Universe and Story of Evolution are two of his acclaimed books, and with the current volume, Story of Consciousness, he completed the trilogy on evolution. Welcome to our show, Dr. Bhattacharjee.
Thank you, Dr. Nath.
You are a writer, you are a columnist, and your views on finance and sociology regularly published in newspapers. In fact, we all wait for your new article to come. Professionally, you have been a civil servant and dealt with public audits. How was the motivation to write popular science books?
Well, Dr. Nath, I have also written books on economics and public finance and public policy as well.
Yeah.
One of my books, The Special Category States of India, published by the Oxford University Press in 2016, still remains the only book on the subject. As regards writing, I believe we all share a responsibility towards society, and I discharge my responsibility through writing. Now, you see, physics was my first love, and I have not been able to come out of its mesmerizing charm ever since I had studied physics. Now, interest in one branch of science just kept on expanding, and my interest horizon today envelops probably all branches of science, including psychology.
How did you conceive the book? Consciousness is not an easy topic to deal with, and especially in a popular science book format.
You are right. You see, I have always believed that there is a continuity in the universe right from its origin, and I want to tell my readers the story of this continuity. You find a lot of books on universe, on evolution, but rarely you find a book which traces the entire story of this continuity. In my earlier two volumes, I had told the tale of this continuity till the evolution of the Homo sapiens, and after finishing those, I was urged by my readers, by my friends, my family, to continue the story. And I also felt that we are what we are as human beings only because of our mental evolution, and without addressing that aspect of evolution, the story remains incomplete. But still, I did not know how and where to begin from. Then in 2014, I undertook a trip with my son to the Bhimbetka caves near Bhopal. Bhimbetka is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and in the walls of those caves, you see marvelous, exquisite paintings in brilliant colors made by people who lived in those caves some 15 to 20,000 years ago. Those paintings depict their impressions about their world, the way they had perceived them, like their rituals, the humdrum scenes of their daily lives, mostly figures of animals and human beings. And those figures have been drawn by using simple curves like circles and straight lines, like this. What struck me was that a child today draws those figures the same way, and I thought it was amazing that a child is using a technique used by her forefathers some 15,000–20,000 years ago. Now, the cave paintings are spread throughout the world. You find them in Indonesia, in Spain, in France, in Mexico, in Peru, in Brazil, and everywhere the same techniques have been used. And there is a deeper connection. When I started researching, I found the connection, that was the use of symbols, because the picture is nothing but a symbol, and symbols play an integral role in consciousness. That's how I started.
Title of your book is Story of Consciousness. Tell us, what is consciousness?
It is very difficult to tell, because there is no accepted definition of consciousness. Consciousness is the sum total of our cognition, our judgment, our thought, our intelligence, innovation, creativity, memory, emotion, perception, feeling, our linguistic ability, our capacity for abstraction. In fact, so many things that every dictionary of psychology breaks down while trying to define consciousness. One dictionary, the International Dictionary of Psychology, says that consciousness cannot be defined except in terms which are unintelligible. Another definition goes so far as to say that nothing worth reading has been written on it. In fact, the same is the case with the mind. The Devil's Dictionary in fact defines mind as something that is engaged in ascertaining its own nature, and find this impossible because it has only itself to know itself with.
So, as per you, the consciousness is the sum total of what we understand, we perceive, maybe the language, maybe the symbols, the way we talk. At this point, we will continue with your discussion with you. At this point, we shall take a short break. Don't go away.
India Science is an internet-based science TV channel initiated by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar. India Science on the URL www.indiascience.in is a bilingual channel with content in Hindi and English. It can be accessed on any internet-enabled device. This video platform is dedicated to science and technology knowledge dissemination with a strong commitment to spreading scientific awareness, especially with Indian perspectives, ethos and cultural context. The India Science mobile app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
Welcome back. We are in conversation with Dr. Govind Bhattacharjee, author of the book Story of Consciousness. Dr. Bhattacharjee, it is well documented that animals do communicate within their own group. Does that mean animals do have consciousness?
Most certainly they have. You see, as I just said, consciousness means so many things, and we find that the entire animal kingdom shares these traits in varying degrees. In fact, every child of evolution possesses consciousness. Intelligence in varying degrees is shared among the entire animal kingdom, and some of the animals like apes and primates, they display remarkable degree of intelligence. You have mentioned about communication among the animals. In fact, most animals know how to communicate among themselves even without having a complex language like ours. In fact, they don't need to possess any complex language. The fact that they survive and proliferate testifies to their evolutionary success even without having a complex language. Animals emote. They display emotions towards their offsprings, and as we know from experience, the pets, they display emotion, bonding and recognition towards us. And why animals? Even trees know how to communicate through their roots. They have sensations and feelings which can be detected and measured. So, sentience is by no means an exclusive preserve of the humans. Consciousness is in fact a wide spectrum shared by the entire living world.
Dr. Bhattacharjee, your first book, Story of Universe, describes the evolution of universe since the Big Bang, and it ends with evolution of life form on the earth. Your second book, The Story of Evolution, describes the evolution of the life itself, and it ends with evolution of Homo sapiens in Africa. And your present book, The Story of Consciousness, takes the story from there, and it actually explains how consciousness have gradually evolved. Tell us how actually consciousness evolved.
Well, you see, evolutionary biologists, they identified three processes. First is the development of the instinct for self-preservation or selfishness of an organism that motivates it to protect itself against environmental dangers. The second process follows from the first. Development of sense organs to gather inputs from the environment, and a brain to process and analyze that information. As these organs became more and more complex, more and more sophisticated, they gave the organism the ability to anticipate. And this ability to anticipate dangers in the environment will, in due course, produce the ability to imagine a future. The third step in the evolving matrix of consciousness is the linguistic and cultural evolution.
Can you tell us how language plays a role in consciousness?
Well, you see, language is integral along with symbols to the evolution of consciousness. Now, language primarily evolved in response to the need among our hominid ancestors to coordinate and cooperate closely. Now, they are living in a hostile world, and to survive in the hostile world, they needed to communicate and coordinate with other members of the group. The ability to communicate with oneself, the onset of thinking, was the natural consequence of the ability to communicate with others, because it served the same purpose and achieved the same utility. Since it was useful, evolution would hardwire this ability into our brains, so that thinking along with memory became an integral part of our cognition.
You said language led to thinking, and ability to think came from ability to vocalize. That is what you wanted to say?
Yes, thinking came from a language. But you see, there are questions still we do not have the answers to, like can we have a thought without a concept, or concept without language? Can we have a sensation, a feeling like that of pain without having a concept of pain in the language or a word for it? There are other issues. You see, there are some tribes which survive to this day. For example, the Hopis, who are Native American tribes who live in Arizona. They have no past tense in their language. Or Pirahas, who live in the Amazonian forests in Brazil. They have no word for numbers, only few or many. Neither do they have any word for the days of the week, the months or the seasons, only wet and dry seasons. It does not mean that they are any less evolved than the rest, any of us, in consciousness. It only means that language is a tool for the people to negotiate their lives in relation to the conditions in which they live.
Tell us what is heart problem of consciousness? Why it is called heart problem?
There are a number of theories that attempt to explain consciousness, but none of them can explain what we call the heart problem in consciousness, which is this: how does the objective reality, the physical sights, sounds, taste, smell, touch of an object, get translated into subjective experiences within our brain? How do sensory inputs, the objective realities sitting outside of ourselves, acquire a meaning in our mind and make us happy and sad, emotional and detached, passionate and cold? how do the smell of a perfume, the sound of a music, the sight of a photograph make us happy and sad or bring back some old memories? None of the theories have been able to provide any plausible explanation about how the electrochemical actions within the brain produce such feelings. Now, this is called a hard problem, not because we have solved all other problems of consciousness like memory, intelligence, emotions, but at least we know how to approach those subjects. But this problem, the hard problem, we don't even know how to approach.
In your book, you have actually started with the physiology of brain to bring out this consciousness, and it went up to the philosophical aspect. If you tell us something about that philosophical aspect, which I believe you have given at the end of the book.
Well, it's an elaborate chapter, but I can only tell you about some interesting coincidences I find, some points of convergence between science and philosophy. Take for example, the concept of light, which is a central concept in physics. Now, light is a form of energy, and being a form of energy, it cannot be created or destroyed. The speed of light is a universal constant. It also defines the speed limit of the universe. As we approach, if we can approach the velocity of light, then time will begin to slow, space will begin to contract, and reality will begin to change. Light is mysterious. You cannot see light, but you see the objects as they are only when light falls upon them. Now, in consciousness also, the seeking of truth is compared to illumination, and one who has found the truth is called the enlightened. Light and consciousness both are the two sides probably the same coin if you bring science and philosophy together.
So, we are discussing the consciousness, the physiology of brain to the philosophical aspect. At this point, we shall take a short break.
India Science is an internet-based science TV channel initiated by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar. India Science on the URL www.indiascience.in is a bilingual channel with content in Hindi and English. It can be accessed on any internet-enabled device. This video platform is dedicated to science and technology knowledge dissemination with a strong commitment to spreading scientific awareness, especially with Indian perspectives, ethos and cultural context. The India Science mobile app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
Welcome back. We are in conversation with Dr. Govind Bhattacharjee, author of the book Story of Consciousness. Dr. Bhattacharjee, you started by telling that there were simple symbols in the caves. Symbols mean more visual clue. Does it mean the consciousness, actually early consciousness started with those visual clues? What does these symbols signify, and how important these symbols are in developing our consciousness?
Symbols are powerful. Think about the power of a flag or the power of an anthem. They are symbols. Now, they can unite disparate and diverse groups of people within a nation like ours. They can galvanize thousands of people into identical action within an instant. Symbols basically unify. Now, in that dim and distant past, in the early dawn of prehistory, when man was emerging from his forest dwellings, his power of cognition, his cognitive abilities were as yet far too underdeveloped to make a sense of the world around him. Symbols then helped merge his tangible and intangible worlds into a comprehensive unity and gave him a sense of purpose and meaning for his existence. Symbols enforced group cohesiveness, which was essential for survival. In fact, anthropologists, biologists, archaeologists all agree that symbols like language played an integral role in the evolution of human consciousness. And what is language but the use of symbols only?
Dr. Govind Bhattacharjee, tell us something very interesting, one or two facts about your book for our readers.
Okay, let me go back to the symbols since you have been asking me about symbols, and to language, which is nothing but a set of symbols. Now you see, language has got three things. First, vocabulary or the words, which are its basic units. Then syntax, the rules for combining these words into a sentence. And thirdly, semantics, to derive a meaning from the sentence. Compare this with let us say an assembly line in a modern factory, let us say an automobile factory. So, in the assembly line you have got the automobile parts, the screws, nuts, bolts, etc., like your basic units, like your vocabulary. They are assembled following a procedure like your syntax, and the assembled product serves a purpose, that of transportation. So, there is a meaning into the entire thing, like your semantics. Now, isn't the similarity with language rather too strong to indicate an organic connection with the way our thought processes are conditioned by the use of symbols? Another example I will give you is about dreams. Now, dreams generate images which are also symbols. Surveys all over the world indicate that people dream similar dreams all over. Some of the commonest dreams are those of falling from a height, from an aeroplane, from a cliff, from a tree, or being chased by a car, by a motorcycle, by an animal, by a snake, by another human being. Are these dreams our evolutionary memories from the past, when our ancestors had an arboreal existence, and the biggest fear was that of falling from the trees when they were asleep, to be chased by predators on the ground?
Dr. Bhattacharjee, consciousness has a lot to do with brain, and we do understand there are brains which are higher form like human being, and the brains which are not so advanced form. Does that mean the consciousness is also of having higher and lower form?
No, not exactly. You see, every animal, whether it has a larger brain or a smaller brain, has the consciousness necessary for it to survive. The point is that our brain, the human brain, is an extremely complex device, and it has grown gradually over the millennia to deal with the world, the complex world in which humans found themselves, and to rise up to the top of the food chain. Now, the brain, the most important thing about the brain is that it's an amazing device. It's in the brain that all the sensory information are gathered, analyzed to create our picture of the self, awareness of the self, and awareness about the world. The brain is an incredible learning machine. It learns amazingly fast, and it learns even when it is committing a mistake. I mean, it's one of the wonders of creation, that brain.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharjee. So, that was an interesting conversation with the author, who took to writing on science out of his own calling, far away from his bread and butter and professional life. Not only does the book makes us think about the consciousness, his passion to dabble into serious science is very inspiring to the scientific community. We will be back with another notable author of science soon. Please send us your feedback at the email ID given on your screen. Till then, goodbye.